Hey there, racers, and welcome to the first episode of the mini-series Solo Practice Solves Problems, or SPSP in short. In this series, we'll look at why solo practice is often misunderstood and how this misunderstanding ruins the racing experience for a lot of people. So, in this episode, we'll start from the very beginning. That is the core issue, how it affects everyone on the track, the simple solution that fixes it, and a basic practice routine that even the complete beginners can follow. Many new or potential racers get frustrated or give up entirely because nobody explains this one small step that makes racing fun instead of stressful. So if you keep crashing in public lobbies, it's not because you're bad, it's simply because you come in unprepared. So let's start off by looking at the current behavior in public lobbies and the problems it creates. The current behavior that I notice when joining public lobbies is that most of the time there are drivers that come in unprepared, don't know the track, don't know the braking points, therefore become a complete chaotic, unpredictable force for everybody else, and they create chaos on the track with crashes from turn 1, followed for the few couple laps until they leave. So that's what I noticed. And this leads to unnecessary crashes that could have been totally avoided. To people getting frustrated, therefore either rage quitting or starting to drive more aggressively or crashing as well. And this ruins the experience for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner or a professional. If the whole mid-pack leaves on turn 1 or lap 1, then yeah, it's no fun. And I've seen it myself, I had a couple of buddies that got excited about racing, wanted to get a little bit more serious, so they picked up a wheel, and for some reason I couldn't convince them to do few practice runs. They wanted to simply keep driving, racing, so I decided to go with them, and I saw it from the first row, They either were reacting to the drivers in front of them, crashing, or most of the time they didn't finish majority of the races, at least 60%, and lost interest in the first month or so, and I couldn't make them to do another lap with me since then anymore. So I'm not surprised, if it was my experience or everybody else's, I'm sure, where you only crash, then yeah, it's no fun if you want to race, and everybody would give up at that point. And that's what strikes me about it so much, is that the problem is so big, very common, quite predictable, since if you don't know the track, how do you expect to race on it on the full limits, surviving dives from other racers, when you don't even know if the next turn is the left or right, or if it's a straight, And the worst thing about it, or maybe the best thing about it, is that it has a simple fix. I mean, this solution is so easy. I mean, you need 5 to 15 minutes of something pleasant, calm, and the issue is gone. So that's what made me believe that it's simply misunderstood, because it cannot be that something so easy, that solves so much, is ignored. Simply to have a race 5 minutes or 10 minutes quicker that will lead to complete anger or opposite of what you wanted to do. So to give you an example by what I mean by this, is imagine if you want to go to do a public lobby race, right? You open up the server browser, most of the time there is Monza or Spa or whatever, you start the race, go into T1, someone breaks 100, 200 meters late, doesn't matter, wipes up the 3 cars in front of him, That starts a chain reaction. Now the half of the pack is gone. Everybody just slides around, and most of the time you also see the guy that caused the crash leave the lobby. Yeah, so that's the main problem. I'm talking about it, and the core issue of it is basically that people come in unprepared, and it has few symptoms that you can tell by if it's simply coming the mistake or the crash from from a simple mistake or from being unprepared. Yeah. So first, you see people joining and not doing any qualifying runs. I'm not saying that if you do qualifying runs that you're a bad driver or the crash is your fault. No. Maybe you came in from a different server which had the same track, then you don't need to do qualifying, right? Maybe you need to rest a bit before the race and you remember the layout. So that's not an issue, but it's something quite telling with the other symptoms. Yeah, this is the start where you should start watching out if the others come, because if the others come, then it's probably leads to a crash from being unprepared. Which leads me to the second symptom that's basically showing unconfident behavior in the warm-up round. Yeah, so you see already that the guy has struggled to staying in between the cars, is swerving too much left or right, doesn't really prepare the car, is relying on the others, what they're gonna do. So that's definitely a second telltale that you should maybe try to avoid this driver. Which brings us to the third symptom, and that is that they don't know the braking points, right? It means that they either drive by the others or hope that the others know the layout and try to brake with them. But the issue with that is that your reactions to someone braking is way slower than if you are prepared to brake there and do it at the moment, right? Because it takes some time to process. Oh yeah, the guy is braking. Oh yeah, I have to hit the brakes. You hit the brakes, and you also hit them in different speed, in different approach. So it's already wrong if you're trying to brake by the other guys, which is also a point of the next symptom, which is that they rely on reacting to others instead of knowing the track. That's basically the same as with the braking points, but also now with the turns. They don't know if it's a straight, if there is a left turn, if it's a hairpin. They simply follow the cars, and it causes complete chaos. Nobody can predict them, because if they, for example, follow somebody who's doing a fight, they don't know if he's swerving left or right because he's doing an attack, because he's preparing a dive, or because the turn that's coming up requires the car to be there. Yeah. So that's the fourth symptom, which is the biggest telltale for sure, which most often also leads to the final symptom. They crash, leave, join another lobby, and repeat the process. So you often see the guys just hit the guys in the front of them, do a complete distraction, leave immediately, and after, let's say, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, they join again and do the same thing again because they completed their cycle of the servers. They run around and do their crashes. What's quite confusing is that it happens so often, because if your experience is that you come on a server, drive for 5 minutes, destroy the car, go on a different server, do it again, how come at some point you don't think about braking or learning the track? So I think that the people avoiding solo practice, are doing it because they either think that it's A, too boring. Yeah. B, only for slow drivers. C, it's only for aliens chasing world records, which is quite fun because it contradicts the point before. And then D, it's tedious or pointless. Yeah. So I think these are the most likely assumptions that they have, which are completely wrong misconceptions. Since it's only boring if you go in there with the wrong mindset and with the wrong goal and don't allow yourself to do the mistakes. Since for some reason I think some people think that they have to perform their best there or get frustrated by their mistakes since, I don't know, maybe they're alone there with their mistakes. So you have to allow yourself to be the space where you can have the mistakes and where you can have the fun. It's not about chasing anything. It's about learning the track and freeing up your mind for later on. The second misconception of it being only for slow drivers is already debunked by the next one, since if you wish to improve your lap times, if you want to get faster, if you want to get better at the track, then you have to do a solo practice run and hone your skills of the track. Yeah? So it already shows that it's quite nonsense, which leaves us with the third misconception that it's only for aliens chasing world records, which is simply not true, because if you want to make a new setup, for example, learn to drive in the rain, learn a new track that you have never been on, maybe feel like you need to learn a better entry or the ideal line, then this is the place to go, to the free practice again. So these kinds of things that it's only for slow or for fast people simply don't make sense, because one debunks the other. And the last misconception of it being tedious or even pointless can only be true if your goals and mindset with the approach are wrong, since I can imagine it being tedious if you're, for example, a beginner that's trying to learn the layout and the breaking points of a new track, but tries to get the world record time or be 5 seconds faster than before or get the best setup he can. Yeah, it's not gonna be fun. You're gonna get frustrated because you're simply doing it way harder than it had to be while chasing something that you don't need to, right? And the assumption of it being all pointless can only be true if you come in with too low of goals. Yeah. If you're, for example, a professional driver that knows the track, that knows the layout, and you're gonna come in to learn the breaking points and the layout, yeah, you're gonna be bored if you can do a nice lap time, yeah. So at this point, you should try to maybe find ways to improve your setup, ways to improve your driving line, ways to improve your lap times. So it's about choosing the right goal, the right approach, with the right mindset. And I think it debunks all of the misconceptions that people could and would have about why to avoid solo practice.
This is Phoenix 3. Good copy. Strike inbound.
I've been talking a lot about solo practice, but then you say, what do I exactly mean by that? So by solo practice, I mean entering free practice alone with no AI and no other drivers to learn the track without any pressure and any disturbance factors. And what this actually gives you solves all the problems that the public lobbies currently experience, in my opinion. Since you refresh the track memory, you remember all of a sudden the braking points, the layout turns, where to be faster, where to be slower, where to take your chances. You test the car, so you will have the feeling of it, how it behaves into the turns, how it reacts when you get a slip, how it reacts when it's going for a dive, from a hill. So you will have much more confidence in the car, and you also can experiment with the setup, since there's always something to improve. Maybe you overlooked something, maybe you drive now a little bit different, maybe the weather forces you to get more tow or camber. And this way you get comfortable before racing, You know where you are, you know where you're going, you know how everything behaves, you know how everything reacts. Everything is set up to your current feelings of the day. And this removes your track-related stress, All of a sudden, you don't have to worry about the first turn. You don't have to worry about the first lap. You don't have to worry about people knowing the layout for you. And this frees up your brain to focus on the other drivers. And this is the real purpose of practice. So the moment you go with somebody on the racetrack, you don't have to worry about the track anymore. You can fully focus on the drivers, on the race, on what's going on in there, and you can focus on the racecraft, on attacking, on defending, on expecting dives, on taking different lines instead of oh my god, should I brake now? Will he go left? Will he go right? Why is he swerving? It's a complete opposite of what I think that these people have to think about. This brings us actually to the 3 most important things that solo practice offers, and you must learn. So that's track layout, braking points, and dangerous corners. So what do I mean by track layout? By that, I mean that you should know where you are. If you're in the middle, at the start, coming on a straight, or into a hairpin, which is basically the second point. Know what's coming next. Since you need to most of the time prepare the car for the upcoming turns, sometimes you don't want to end up on the left, sometimes you don't want to end up on the right coming from a left turn. So it's also very important, since it's probably what the other cars will do, and if you don't do it, then it's already some unpredictable chaos occurring. So you don't think, is this a straight or a turn? Because some turns look like a turn, but are basically a straight, and then the complete opposite. You have some turns hidden after a hill on a straight, and it's very important for you to know if you should be speeding up or slowing down. Just build basic orientation, Remember the turns and how they connect to each other, how their flow is, and you should be good on the track layout part. Then we have braking points, by which I mean know roughly where to brake. You don't have to have the perfect pinpoint spot, because it never is the same depending on the weather, on the conditions of your car, and the track. So it's important to know where about to brake and where to brake sooner if your car is behaving poor, or where to brake later if somebody does something wrong, for example. Adjust if someone is in front, meaning, that's many people see a car in front of them or a wall pack and they brake at the usual braking point. That simply doesn't work, even from physics perspective. So you have to learn the braking points and also the small buffer in front of them to use if you have someone in front of you. Don't rely on reacting to others, meaning that you should never come into a turn where you are deciding your braking point based on the car in front of you. Yeah, sometimes for trail braking or other techniques, yes, but you still have to know where the usual braking point is and know it reliably. Don't rely on them to show it to you, know it up front, then it's much easier to react to them. It simply allows you to confidently drive even if the cars will start to spread up a little bit further. What I'm basically trying to say is that you shouldn't guess mid-race, yeah? Because the cars at some point get further from each other and you are no longer able to go by them. Then you have to start braking by yourself, and that's where you either start flying out or crashing to someone because you came in at way too high speed. And this brings us to our last point, which was dangerous corners. And I mean by that to identify high-risk sections. Since some corners are quite easy to drive through and also overtake at, you use those most of the time for your battles. But then again, some corners are quite hard to drive through even alone, and even harder to overtake at, if not impossible. So tightening corners would be definitely the second point to watch out for, since they're one of the most, if not the most, dangerous part to overtake at, given the fact that the dynamics shift rapidly. Both drivers have to drive precisely, and there is very little room for error. Most of the time you can already tell that it's very hard to drive through them alone. Now imagine that you have a second car with you going in there and doing unpredictable maneuvers. And the third point would be high speed to low speed transitions to watch out for. Since the speed during overtakes shifts already dramatically given that you have someone on the outside or on the inside. And now imagine that you have to change the speed while not knowing why the other guy is slowing down. Is it because his car got some issues? Is it because he got a slip? Is it because he's trying to take a bit wider angle? You never know. So basically watch out for sequences that overwhelm the drivers where it's already hard to drive alone, and now imagine going in there with a beginner, for example, who's unsure where the braking part even begins. So these 3 points alone should prevent at least 70 or 80% of the incidents that I've got to see in the public lobbies, for sure. And once you know the layout, the braking points, and the dangerous corners, you stop reacting and start controlling. You can finally focus on other drivers. Get your eyes off the track and on the cars. See what the other drivers are doing, anticipating their moves and preparing your own moves in accordance to it. You can finally enjoy the battles, since now you don't have to think about where to brake or what car to track. You can focus on the maneuvers itself. You can finally anticipate the moves, since if you don't know if it's a left-hander hairpin coming up to a fast straight, you don't know how he's gonna prepare the car and how he's gonna attack. But if you know the layout, you can expect the dive and you can close the apex accordingly. You can finally avoid panic, since you no longer are just reacting to chaos and causing chaos, but you're controlling the car, making your moves, and don't rely on others doing the stuff for you. You can finally avoid overdriving, since now you know when to brake, how to position the car, and when to speed up. So you stop slipping from the corners, and you can finally avoid aggressive compensation, since you no longer have to rely on trying to dive every turn after something goes wrong to gain your position back, but you can simply and calmly drive through the chaos, hold your position, and go for the battles once it resolves. And that's where the fun begins. Since racing is not about reacting to the track or trying to survive the track, it's about doing battles and expecting other cars' behavior and forcing the mistakes in them. Not trying to survive your own mistakes. But then again, solo practice is not everything there is, right? I've seen two extremes that are wrong. There are people that do no practice at all, or there are people that do only practice. Yeah, and both are wrong. The no practice driver doesn't know the track, crashes everywhere, causes chaos, leaves frustrated, basically doesn't even race. He's trying just to react to some unknown conditions on an unknown track with unknown behavior. So that's definitely not racing. That's just reacting to chaos. And then you have the over-practiced alien, yeah? He has insane lap times, but no racecraft. And panics when overtaken. Struggles with blue flags, that's also wrong. Since racing is not about being only the fastest, about having the fastest lap time, about being unapproachable. It's again about the battles, about the other cars, about doing the positions, about expectations, about forcing the moves, about defending, about attacking. So both extremes fail because they don't balance skill and racecraft. The first one struggles with the car, with the track, with staying on there. And the second struggles with having fun, with having the battles, with having overtakes, or if somebody faster finally shows up, then he doesn't know how to protect his position. So now that we know the current behavior, the issues it causes, the actual benefits that people are missing out on, let me show you exactly how to do a basic solo practice run so you can avoid all of this while having fun as well. And here we are in the main menu of Assetto Corsa Competizione. You can naturally go to your own preferred game. I just wanted to show that I really go into the single player because it's important in order to avoid any factors that could disturb us. I'm gonna show just a real quick small routine that even the complete beginners can follow. So we are not gonna go into the details or show the full run. I think the video is already too long for it, so I will do it in the next episode. I will explain the steps more. I will do the full practice run. This is just to show you a general idea that you can already use. So we will go into solo practice. It's also important, or whatever the equivalent in your game is, because the hot lap, for example, or the custom race weekend, should I say, it's the same as a normal race. It's basically useless for practicing the track. Same with the quick race, because it's just too much stuff going on. You focus on the cars, focus on the battles, and don't have much time to process where you're going and do your own pace that you need to do from the start. So hot stint is not viable because it's the same as the hot lap, for example. It would only make you focus on the time, on being fast. It already would go against the purpose that we're trying to do here, which is calm, fun environment where you can do mistakes and learn from them, not somewhere where you go chasing and get frustrated or have a goal other than learning the track. So practice it is. Make some, usual time, like, I don't know, 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 2 p.m. Doesn't matter. Don't do anything crazy, like super early in the morning or late in the night, because that's, again, some additional factors that would only make you focus on training them, like driving with a cold track or too hot track, or with low visibility instead of on the track itself. So the same for the weather. Pick something calm, easy, something that is usually experienced, from which you can go up or down. So in this case, I would simply do some small variability, so it's not completely static, some clouds to avoid getting into the rainy conditions, but still you don't want the full sun. It's rarely experienced. And then a normal temperature, nothing too hot, nothing too cold. And we can then jump into the track itself. I picked something where Kuhrym this time, where you can follow the practice from the start, and it's gonna show that it's worthwhile while not being too boring. Because I'm sure that once we get onto the straights in the first few rounds where you go 30%, it could be too slow, but Kuhrym doesn't have too long of straight, so it's fine. For the setup, since this is meant even for the complete beginners, we're gonna do the safe setup. I'm gonna do just some slight changes because I find it a little bit too safe. For example, the brakes become too cold in the rear, so let me change those. Just pump it in the front one lower. It's not every car, but in the AMR V8 for sure. So the Emperor should be as is. Mechanical grip. You don't have to do this at all. It's just my personal preference because I like it more if I can trail brake. So I'm gonna add a little bit brake bias to the front, and you can keep it as it is. Yeah. So if you're a complete beginner or don't like it, keep it at 64, even go to 65, doesn't matter. So that's just my personal change. Fuel, pick something in the middle, like 62 liters is good, 60 liters, to get the sense of the car from middle of the race. Yeah, you don't want it too light, you don't want it too heavy. It's always finding the perfect balance. So the brakes, since we are doing a preparation for just a few minutes, 1 hour or so, you can get the ones, because that's most of the races you're gonna do with, since the twos are from 3 hours and more up, so for endurance racers. Then we go into the electronics. I would suggest, if you're a complete beginner, keep it as it is. If you have some experience, you can put traction control 2 completely down, and would keep the rest as is. I mean, I usually prefer to have traction control lower, ABS even lower, somewhere around 2, but it's not important. I'm not going to chase lap time. I'm not going to chase being fast or doing last moment braking or whatever. So even I, despite preferring faster car, will keep safe setup with high traction control, ABS, as is in the safe setup. So the tires you can usually keep as they are. Usually you would play with PSI because of the weather, but you cannot know up front. So that's the car setup, and let's jump into it. So the general idea would be that you would do Again, it's meant for the complete beginners, so you can use your own thinking based on your experience level to adjust this pattern. And again, it's just a short summary, basically, to give you something to go by. I'm gonna go do the full explanation later. I'm gonna even segment it for different skill levels, so anybody can take from it what he needs and doesn't do something too easy or too hard. So with enough explanation of what I'm trying to say is that you would usually do, as a complete beginner, 3 laps at 30% of your throttle or gas. So you will see I will go only up to 30%. If you are a little bit more experienced, you can do only 2 laps. If you know the track well, you can do only 1 lap, yeah? So it's gonna be always 3 laps on certain percentage, but since it's a quick rundown, I'm gonna show only 1 lap. Yeah, so let's start it off by going to 30%. It's really a limit for the full lap. Doesn't matter if you're at the straight or at the turn. Keep it at 30% so your braking points add up, because if you drive faster and start braking at 30%, then you're gonna overshoot, right? So as you're gonna see, I'm gonna use gas and brakes only up to 30%. In the first gear, it's fine. You can rev the engine, ignore the rule and go for 80%, let's say. Don't go full throttle, that would overthrow you. So until second gear, it's fine to go a little bit faster. And as you see, I'm gonna just simply get the feel of the track, of the bend, how it feels, how the car behaves. You also should have in mind that you try to turn your wheel at 30%, yeah? So basically everything at 30%. You're gonna just add the gas to 30%. Also brake at to 30%. And also turn at 30%. So if instead of quick turning, use slow rotation. And then once you start speeding up, everything should be consistent, yeah? So this is the part where you start tracking down the brake points and how the turns behave, how it connects everything, where you are placed. Because if you're driving slow, it's much easier to remember where you were than if you just drive by it in 3 seconds. So this is where you take everything in, and you already see that not every turn I'm able to drive through at full gas. So I take note of those, since we're definitely not gonna try and go much faster there once we start to speed up. And as you see, until the second gear, it's fine. You can rev the engine, use like 80% of the gas, but once you're in the second gear, go 30%. And the same for the brakes. I use only 30%. So I already see that this threw me out a little bit more. Maybe I will adjust my entry pattern or when I add the throttle. So this is something I remember for the next turn. But since we're just doing a quick run, it's not gonna really happen. So if you are a complete beginner, you would do 3 laps at these 30%. The idea is to go a little bit quicker on the throttle for the first gear with each lap. So you're getting faster each time. But we're not gonna do this time. So before you enter the straight, you already can go at the second stage, which will be 60%. So you basically add always 30%. So now it's at 60%. And as you saw, for the first gear, you can rev the engine. Second gear, I keep 60%. Usually your car would start to heat up in the 60% for the 3 laps, but since I'm gonna do only 1 lap, it's not gonna have enough of time. So here it is, a little bit entry, a little bit better entry than before, learning how I can use my throttle in the turns, and then trying to keep my limits. This is what you would do for another 3 laps. If you're a bit more experienced, you would do it for 2 laps. If you're new, know the track, then only for 1 lap. You don't have to do this all the time. The general idea is always if you change the track. So if you drive a single track for 3 days, let's say, then you would do it at the first day for, I don't know, 9, 15 laps, depending on how it goes. And then you wouldn't have to do it again until you change the track, and you should definitely do a practice run like this for the new track. Doesn't mean that if you learn a track, for example, you learn Kyalami, drive it for 3 days, and now want to drive Monza one day, yeah? So you learn Monza, drive Monza, and then you want to drive Kyalami on the 5th day. Doesn't mean that you have to learn Kyalami again, yeah? It would be better, but you won't forget it in 1 day. So let's say if it's 3 or more days, then you have driven on track, you should do at least one of these practice runs, which adds up to somewhere around 9 laps. 15 laps, depending on how it goes. And as you saw, that was the second lap, so we're gonna start going 90% now. Since I know the track, I'm experienced with it, and I don't want to make the video longer than it already is. So there it was, braking at 90%, learning again how to adjust the throttle, where the braking points are. This time a little bit more aggressive since it's much higher speed, but despite it, you already see that I didn't use full throttle through the turn at first gear. So that's something you learned from the previous speeds, right? Because you were going slow and felt that the car is pushing wide. So you remember the turn, and once you come into it with bigger limits, you try to find where it was. And in the next lap, you should be able to hit it perfectly. So you can see that the behavior is truly the same. I'm braking at the same spots. I'm braking basically through the same time. Even turning similarly, despite going much faster, 13 seconds faster, yeah. But everything looks basically similar. If I sped up the previous footage, I think other than me learning how the car behaves, it would look almost identical. So that's really the point of it, to be able to basically feel the turns and touch through them, basically, instead of rushing through them. So you can see how wide it is, feel how the car drives out, and memorize it. Because if you're gonna overdrive it at the first moment, there is nothing to learn and remember. Yeah, so once we finish the 90%, you can try and give it full blast, 100%. But here, you should be careful if you're going the first time. With the braking points, try to brake a little bit earlier, because going full throttle is truly something different than going 60 to 90%, and it's easy to overshoot and hard to recover. So you shouldn't have to worry about it much if you follow it properly. If the scaling 30%, 60%, 90%, 100%. I always recommend 3 laps, but if you feel that you already are good at it, you can skip one sooner, and it should result into this. The ability to drive perfectly on the track, with no surprises, being aware of the turns, of the braking points, having a somewhat decent or may I say even a good time. I'm quite quite happy with it. I'm not the fastest driver, so I'm still learning that part, but I think that my ability to do the racecraft and the practice is something that I can share, so that's what I'm trying to do here. And yeah, that's the solo practice session. Main point was to remember the track, nothing else. If you got a nice time, then perfect. If you got a slow time, there's nothing wrong with it. The main part is knowing where to brake, where you are on the track, what turn is this. So you no longer focus on the track and can focus on the cars. And the moment you focus on the cars, you're gonna stop having those crashes, because a lot of people react to them instead of know the track, and that's why they overshoot. But now, when you know where the braking point is, even at slow speed, even at high speed, it won't happen to you. So the last thing I want to show, since it's also quite useful, once you come into the pits, I recommend driving into the pit lane. But if you try to do your setups, you can go on the straight line into the pits using the escape key, and it will show you perfectly what the temps are. So if you like your tires at 26.9, you would simply put your left tire plus 0.4, your right tire plus 0.1, your left rear plus 0.4, your right rear plus 0.2. Yeah, I prefer some other PSI, so I'm gonna adjust it based on that, but simply add it up so it has the value you like. And then we can save the setup with the name of the temperatures we had, so we can adjust it later. As you see, I already have some here. Since it was 24 degrees. Alright, I didn't do it this time, since I can use it as what not to do. Yeah, don't name your setups first, since if you're gonna go on the track in next day, for example, and the weather is 12 degrees or 36 degrees, then you don't know how to change it. So save it as you see the others, 24C, 32 track temperature. You can even put down how long you intend to drive or something like that, and save it with something useful. So now we have the tires prepared for the next solo practice if we want to, and it will have exact matching tires we need. Alright, so I hope this little routine can help you already with your preps and avoiding of the issues in the public lobbies. And let's wrap up today's SPSP episode with the rundown of points that I hope that I was able to get through in this episode, and also a bit what to expect in this format. So first of all, it doesn't have to be numbered. It doesn't have any relevance to how important it is. The issue is big, since it creates frustration for everybody. Yeah, it does destroy the races. It goes against what racing is about, since you, instead of focusing on the races, focus on the track and reacting to what's happening, and you don't know if it's because of the track or because of some fights. So yeah, it destroys the race for everybody, and it happens way too often. The second point I hope I got through was definitely that the fix is very simple. It takes only about 15 to 30 minutes. It doesn't have to do anything hard, any major goals. Just need to get a touch of the track to know where you are, what the breaking points are and what the dangerous corners are. That's all. So simple. It doesn't have to be a fast time, a perfect execution of the ideal line, last moment braking. Yeah, it doesn't have to be any of that. It's also misunderstood. That would be the third point that I hope that I got through, because given the fact how ignored and avoided it is and how much the problems persist, I would say it's simply due to people avoiding it, and given how much it would benefit them and allow them to do more in racing, I believe it's truly just misunderstood. The next point that I go through is also that it doesn't have to be boring. I didn't touch much on this point. Since it's already a pretty long video, I will do it in the next episode where we'll do a full rundown of how to do a solo prep for a new track that you are changing to. But it already makes the racing much more fun because first of all, you can concentrate on it. And second of all, you avoid all of the stress. So it's basically buying or preparing the fun for the future. The next point which I want to go through, it's also that it doesn't have to be long. As you saw, it took only about truly 15 minutes or 20 minutes, even with explanation. A good prep for somebody who knows the track. If you were a completely newcomer to the track, then it's 3 times longer. I think 1 hour for you having much better experience for the next week or how long you intend to stay on the track is really worth it, and it's not that long. Since I can imagine some people imagine it you have to do every day or all day, it's none of that. Makes everything fun much sooner, which is the last point I hope I was able to get through in this episode. I also described it a little bit in the previous points, since we talked about how it removes all the unpleasant stuff like the chaos and predictability, how it allows you to focus on what racing is actually about, and also avoids most of the contacts and issues that are experienced currently so often in public lobbies. And that would be the wrap-up of today's episode. As I already hinted, the next one will be a full guided and descriptive rundown of all 3 laps per segment. So we will do all 9 laps of the practice run with the tips and also more in-depth explanation on how to actually do it, how to work with mistakes, for example, and how to make it fun. So what will be actually holding the format for this series. We will cover how to improve, for example, your braking points, how to improve your ideal line, how to learn what are the hard segments, how to use solo practice for time improvements, for car control improvements, stability improvements, for different conditions. So everything we will cover in this series. And this was just a quick pilot episode to give you an insight on the issue that we will cover, basically how the format will probably work, and also a simple fix that you could use. So thanks for sticking by to the end. Today's SPSP, and I hope to see you in the next one.